Before we get into umpiring, I would like to thank fellow umpires Dick Runchie and Bob Jones for volunteering and helping us with the on-field shoot. Now here's a look at the umpiring section of our videotape.
In this next section, we will cover umpire mechanics for various situations. First, we will demonstrate proper mechanics for batter's interference. Runner is stealing, catcher is trying to throw to second base. Maybe a hit and run. Hitter swings, and as he swings, he falls across the plate. That's interference! That's interference! And blocks off the catcher.
The recommended umpire mechanic is call the pitch, point at the batter, call interference, be vocal, do not call time, enforce Rule 6.3b, the delayed dead ball rule.
Here we have a situation where the catcher's interfering with the batter's actual swing. As he comes back, does his cocking action, starts in, catcher reaches into the strike zone, and the batter is interfered with. Hits the catcher's mitt. Now you have catcher's interference.
The recommended umpire mechanic is call interference, call time only if pitch is not hit. Enforce various applications of Rule 8.2e.
This next situation is an example of batter-runner interference.
Inside. Inside, inside. That's interference. Hole's dead. Runner's out.
The recommended umpire mechanic is plate umpire will usually make this call because he has the best angle since he is following the runner down the line. Call, that's interference, ball is dead. Call, batter out, return all base runners to the base last occupied at the time of the pitch. We'd like to demonstrate the three plate stances most used by college umpires today. The first stance is the squat or the box stance. For a beginning college umpire, it's probably one of the easiest to use. To demonstrate, the plate umpire will put his feet shoulder width apart. He will keep his weight evenly distributed. As the pitcher begins to pitch, he will go to a heel-toe relationship with his slot foot. The pitcher begins to pitch, he will bend at the knees. Please notice his head height and that he is stable and not moving. He will bend a little bit forward depending on the height of the hitter to establish his high strike zone. The umpire, to protect himself, will take his slot arm and put it across his waist, and the other arm will be put onto his thigh, keeping his elbow in so he keeps himself protected. Notice that he can see the outside corner of the plate, his head height is good, and that he's stable. The next position is the scissors position. The legs are fully open, like a pair of scissors. The feet are directly behind each other, one full stride apart. The slot foot is positioned approximately 6 inches behind the catcher's inside foot. Your back leg will be fully extended, knee straight, with ball of foot on the ground and heel elevated. When pitcher delivers, your slot leg knee is bent at a 90-degree angle. Vast majority of your weight is on your bent leg. Your shoulders are square, and you will lean forward dramatically into the pitch and establish your head height and stability. This is a difficult position because it can create poor balance and cause extreme stress on your slot leg. The next position is the knee position. A good stance for especially umpires who are a little bit taller. The umpire takes his position just as if he was kneeling down. Feet are directly behind each other. Notice that here again, he's established his head height, and he's also very stable. If he has to get down for a smaller hitter, he will bend forward at the back. This locks him in, but it does put excessive stress on getting up and down. It also has a disadvantage, is that to get away from the catcher and also to cover plays on the bases. Timing, slower the better. The reason why pitches are missed is because the umpire calls the pitch too quick. A good technique to help you slow your timing down is to say to yourself, on the rubber, get set, call it. On the rubber, the pitcher has toed the rubber. Get set, the pitcher begins his delivery. Call it, pitch is caught. Timing is the most important thing to remember in calling pitches. Consistency. All coaches and players want a consistent strike zone. If you start the game calling the borderline pitch a strike, you must continue calling it a strike throughout the game. Consistency is developed by doing the same routine over and over again. Staying still. Do not move. Keep your head still. Follow the ball into the glove with your eyes. This is a very important plate mechanic. If you move your head or move your body, you will get a different look at the pitch as it's coming in. Keep your head still. Concentration. As we all know, it's very difficult to keep a high level of concentration throughout the ball game. We must focus on the pitch. We must relax between pitches, and we must develop a good breathing method. The key to any good plate game is that we must start strong and finish strong. We can't waver. If you work on these 5 keys, stance, timing, consistency, staying still, and concentration, we believe you will become a better and more consistent plate umpire. The key to starting any ball game is the home plate conference. Here are some guidelines umpires should follow. All the umpires should start together. Be professional. Don't be hanging out in one of the team's dugouts. The plate umpire should accept the lineup cards. He should receive the home team's card first. His job is to check the card for the number of players. All positions are listed. Players' uniform numbers are listed. The DH, pitcher are clearly identified. A good preventive officiating technique is to fix the mistake before you accept the card. Let the home team go over the ground rules. Ask questions about the ground rules if you have any doubts about a certain rule. Emphasize the collision and force play slide rule, the batter's box rule, helmets and bats have been checked, and keeping players and equipment in the dugout. Also mention the halted versus regulation game rule. Start the game out right. Most umpires don't have the luxury of working with the same crew all the time. First of all, the crew should arrive a minimum of 45 minutes before each game. Here are some discussion items. Fair and foul balls up to the base will be called by the plate umpire. Any fair or foul ball from the front of the base on will be called by the appropriate base umpire. Discuss the infield fly signal. All infield flies will be called by any umpire when the ball reaches its apex and begins its downward flight. Discuss check swings. Know which umpire to check with. Discuss coverage of overthrows and foul fly balls near the dugouts or fences. Situation field coverage. Umpires going out. First base umpire following the batter runner on a base hit that goes through or beyond outfielders. The plate umpire taking the play at third base when a runner goes from first to third. Discuss outfield coverage when there are no runners on base. Discuss any unusual ground rules. Walk the park if you're not familiar with it. Understand the ejection and fight rule procedures. Talk about the collision and the force play slide rule. The trip rule. Make sure the home plate umpire is keeping records of the offensive-defensive conferences. Weather conditions. Who's going to make the call? Lightning, threatening weather. Verbal and nonverbal signs. Discuss the time play, third strike in the dirt, reverse rotation, the home plate umpire staying home. Control the dugouts. Who's responsible for bench jocking and keeping players and equipment in the dugout? And before the game starts, make sure that all bats and helmets are checked. Remember, the crew should help and support each other. Go out, have a good ball game, and have fun.
Now let's take a look at a little more plate work video footage that Jim, Dave Yaste, and I shot yesterday here in the studio. In this segment, we're going to discuss in a little more detail the strike zone, catcher's mitt work, and catcher-umpire rapport. Let's take a look at the video. What we're going to do in this part of the video is talk about some things that the video alludes to, but we want to expand upon a bit. The first concerns the strike zone, which is a continuing area of discussion among college coaches and on the part of the championships committee. And I'm going to talk a bit about the dimensions of the zone. Then Dave Yaste is going to talk about catchers and mitt work and what umpires ought to be looking at as far as catchers are concerned when they're calling pitches. And then Jim Garman is going to talk a bit about establishing a good relationship with the catcher behind home plate. First, let's go talk a little bit about the strike zone. Now, the general consensus